Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute. I'm in grad school. That's the explanation. And today's video is a little bit different because it's not only just a regular video, but also part of a project I'm doing for one of my courses. It's my big final project. It's about community college, and this assignment is to contribute to the End Community College Stigma campaign / project, whichever you want to call it. I always default to campaign. I think it's actually called the project, but I always mess it up. And I decided to combine the two things that I really love, higher education and reading, and do a bit of an analysis on two YA books that are both set in colleges, but one is set at a four-year institution and one is set at a community college. I'm going to do a brief summary of both of the books, and then get into a little bit more of a critical analysis of the characters and their character growth, their journeys. This is not a review video, but just to throw this out there, both these books are 5 stars for me. I love them both very much. Highly recommend. And hello to my professor. I don't know if the class is going to be watching each other's stuff, but also hello classmates. What's up? Also, if you see me looking down, I do have a script right now. I'm not just talking off the top of my head for a video. What a novel concept. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm actually looking down at my notes and being prepared for a video. Who is she? I do have some trigger warnings in this video about mental health, mental illnesses, and specifically a suicide attempt and suicidal ideation. So if that's not something you're in the space to hear about, totally understand. Go watch some cute bunnies or something. I totally don't mind. So let's get into it. The first book I'm going to talk about is Fangirl. It's pretty much a booktube staple at this point. It came out, I think, almost 10 years ago. When did you come out? 2013 question mark? Yeah, 2013. I know my publication dates. So this book came out in 2013. Many people have read it by now. But for those of you who are unaware, this book follows our main character named Kath Avery, who is in her freshman year at the University of Nebraska. She has always shared a bedroom and shared passions and interests with her twin sister, Ren. But Ren decides that she doesn't want to live with Kath anymore when they go to college. She wants to kind of forge her own path. So from there, Kath kind of has to be on her own, and she starts coming out of her shell. And the second book I'm going to be talking about today is Nice Try, Jane Sinner by Leanne Olke. I did look up on the website how to say her last name. Her website, I should clarify, because there's a lot of vowels here. It is Olke. This is a much newer release. I believe it came out in 2018. And it follows, surprise, Jane Sinner, as she participates in a reality show at her local community college, which is very cool and fun. She lives with other students in a house kind of in a Big Brother type scenario, and completes challenges in order to win prizes. I think the ultimate grand prize is a car. She's also a little bit of a loner. She's trying to escape a reputation that she gathered in high school of being crazy after a suicide attempt during New Year's. So she leaves her high school and just finishes out her high school credits at her community college, and also does some dual credit type things. And the catalyst for this is she was raised in a religious household, and she kind of came to the realization that she didn't believe in God, which caused her to kind of want to give up on everything, and that is what caused her suicide attempt. So starting at her community college really affords her the time and space necessary away from friends and family, and people who know about that situation, so that she can grow into her own person. So how are these books similar? On the surface, it might not seem like much, but there's actually a lot in common. Kath and Jane both struggle with mental illness. As I just discussed, Jane had a pretty severe depressive episode, which resulted in her suicide attempt. And then even afterwards, she continues to question not only God, but everyone around her, because if she can't trust this almighty being that she was raised to believe created everything and cared about her, if she doesn't actually believe in that anymore, how can she believe in anyone else? So she is much more cynical than she was prior to the events of the book, and it is remarked on not only by Jane herself, but also lots of people around her who knew her before and after the attempt. And I believe Kath likely has some kind of anxiety disorder, judging from her behavior in the book and my super non-expert skills in diagnosing mental illnesses in fictional characters. As a really big example, pretty early into the book, when she first moves into her dorm, she doesn't understand how the dining hall works. And instead of asking anyone for help or just like going and figuring it out, she just hides out in her room whenever she can, and she kind of survives off of protein bars. And then as sort of a coping mechanism for her anxiety, she escapes into fantasy worlds. She writes fan fiction for a super popular fantasy series in like her alternate version of the world. And she does that to not really deal with her problems. So she really struggles to stand up for herself, and she doesn't want to be perceived as weird or odd. And so she does everything in her power to not look weird or odd, even if what she's actually doing is weird or odd. Like, she didn't want to look like the person who doesn't know what she's doing in the dining hall, so she just didn't go. And that kind of makes her afraid to go out and just live her life because she's so scared of being perceived as someone who's strange. A big part of their character development comes from being in this new environment for both the characters. They're thrust into new living situations pretty suddenly, pretty dramatically. It's not like a slow change. It's not like, oh, I have a month crossover between my leases so I can take my time moving my stuff and it's not a big deal. Like, no, it's like boom, 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 like they're there. Jane's new home is less conventional than Kath's, and I'll be honest, a lot less realistic as well. It definitely still helps her grow as a person. I don't know of any community colleges that have a reality show where students live together and play all these weird games for prizes, but if any ever have done that, I'm sure there's plenty of shenanigans and personal growth, just like in the book. But when Jane is able to get away from her old life and all the people who look at her with pity and don't really understand her, that's when she's able to start trusting others again, because she can open up to people who don't know about her past. And then Kath's story is also very similar. When her roommate notices that she's not eating, she forces Kath to go to the dining hall with her and shows her the ropes. And so that helps Kath trust other people besides her twin, Ren, because that was really the only person that Kath had ever trusted before and been sort of a partner in crime. So when someone else steps up and is kind to Kath and shows her what's going on, she starts to see that she can trust other people and open up and have strong relationships outside of her family. Now, when we talk about the differences, I think the main difference, the very glaringly obvious one, is the setting. Kath goes to a 4-year school. She goes to the University of Nebraska, and Jane goes to a local community college, just like in her hometown. But when you dig into the way that they both develop over the course of their stories, it's very, very similar. It seems like the setting is really a superficial difference. Their stories really mirror each other, and they mirror how 2-year colleges and 4-year colleges actually operate in the same way. When you look at how they interact with their schools, how other characters interact with them, their journeys are really almost identical when you're looking from sort of a character archetype literary analysis point of view. It pretty much doesn't matter that they go to different types of schools, because they grow in the same way and they come into their own, opening up to their community and trusting other people. So then what does this actually say about community college? How is this ending community college stigma? I argue that it is a case of art imitating life. Art certainly doesn't exist in a vacuum. And I think there's a reason that these two authors from different countries who are at wildly different places in their career. Rainbow Rowell was already an established author when Fangirl came out, and Nice Try Jane Center was Leanne Olkey's debut. But there's a reason why they wrote such similar stories. It's because it's real life. I think any college experience, whether it is at a 4-year school or a 2-year school, offers opportunities for personal growth and development. But unfortunately, community colleges have developed a stigma of being only for students who aren't academically talented enough for a 4-year school. When we look at Jane Sinner, we can see this is patently untrue. She's a fictional embodiment of real people who are going through things because life is messy and complicated and stuff comes up. And yes, smart people sometimes end up going to community colleges. And even if that were true, that only less academically talented individuals, that's the sentence I wanted to say. Even if those students are the ones going to community colleges, who cares? Isn't it better that students are going to institutions that are actually designed to meet their needs and will help support them and help them rise to success, rather than just going to a 4-year school because that's what you're supposed to do and then struggling? That doesn't make any sense. So I feel like that is a big reason why we should try to end community college stigma, so that students can have personal growth at whatever institution is best for them, as well as academic growth. Because both those things are intertwined, especially at the stage in life in which is considered the traditional college student, kind of that immediately after high school, 18 to 22, 24 years old. They need that space to grow academically, personally, professionally, all those things. And they should go to whatever place is best for them, not what society pressures them to do. I relate to Jane and Kath both on so many levels, but it makes me really happy to know that in another timeline, some other version of me went to a community college, and she was supported by her peers and staff and faculty at her community college. I will leave some links in the description box below for articles about the End Community College Stigma Project. You can follow the hashtag on Twitter if you're interested in learning a little bit more, so you can see the incredible work that community colleges are doing. It's hashtag ECCSP, because if you were spelling out the whole thing, that would be the entire tweet. Yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about, is making sure that students get the best education for them, not just what society thinks everyone should be doing. So this is kind of one of my little passion projects. People who watch my channel, you're learning a little bit about like my personal life and what I'm into. And this was really cool. So if you guys have anything to share, if you know of any other books that are set in colleges that you think would be helpful to help people kind of view this issue through the lens of fiction, I'm currently reading Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi, and that's another one. I'd kind of forgotten that it was set in college, but it is. So that's another really good one to look at because it follows two characters. One is at UT Austin and the other is at Austin Community College, and they become each other's emergency contacts when they kind of meet by happenstance. So I think that's a really good example as well. Yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks for sticking with me, everyone who has, even though I haven't uploaded in like 4 months, 5 months, I don't want to talk about it. Life will be normal at some point. Yeah, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. I will see you all next time. Bye!